But that was what that's what I was trying to do beside this. But the guy said it would have been in time. Oh, I think it's right here. That's what it was. I think it's right here. Yeah, it wouldn't have been in time, but I'm just saying in general we need. No, I was trying to surprise the team and just get it done. So when y'all was saying it, I was just laughing. But she knew what I was trying to do. Hello, how you doing? Hold on.
All right.
Oh shoot, I left it in the car. Yeah, my bad. Was that some snow, bitch? Oh shoot, what you doing? Everybody gets one?
Everyone gets a set.
Oh, everyone gets a set. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, cool. I was really about to give you one of these, bro. Actual growth. Certain changes.
Because we did have that.
Yeah, man.
You know, the kids, you have to always be like on top of it.
Yeah, and I have to do.
You know.
So let me ask you this: like, what's been like for you personally? What has been like probably like the toughest transition? Like, you know, with all this stuff that's going on.
It really doesn't have to hit us because we still go to work every day.
Oh, gotcha.
It really doesn't. It never really hit us, and then we were doing like 12 hours a day, working, not going home at all, not seeing the kids.
How many sessions? Yeah, so that was kind of like normal for y'all already.
Right.
Like me, now I'm doing about 160, close to 200 push-ups a day.
Yeah.
Any weights or just straight calisthenics?
Yeah, no, that's right. I'm actually I'll go to Brookville, and then I do the pull-ups, like do these, then I jog, push-ups, and I got the dumbbells. You know what I'm saying? And you know what else is cool to do? So it's like I do boom, boom. That's one. Boom, boom, boom. Just things like that. Yeah. So it's like I'm good. Like I've always been cut up. That's not the issue. I just wanted to get a bigger version of what I'm already am. Like that.
I'm gonna ask that everybody take a seat, please. Thank you. This meeting will be recorded. If you have an issue with being on camera for film, or to be used for later purposes, for educational purposes, and also just to spread awareness to what we're doing. If you have an issue with being on film, you can participate, but please just sit over there by the benches so that we won't catch you. If you do not go over there, I assume that nobody has an issue. This will just be broadcast on different social media platforms and to be used later to just get an idea on just different input. So now, there's a couple of people that I would like to just briefly introduce. You'll hear more from them later on. Let's see. My commanding officer.
Right here.
Yo, Mr. Garcia, you gotta come down here, bro.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vincent Tavallaro. I'm the commanding officer of the 103rd Precinct.
We have some special invited guests. And for those of you who was at the last meeting, I spoke to you about my gaming and guidance. We do gaming and guidance. My gaming and guidance team, they're here.
Yo, what's up, y'all? I'm HipHopGamer, Hot 97, Logitech D. This is the gaming and guidance team.
I'm DJ Sparks.
This B.
Mr. Skinner.
We also have the Community Council President who is here, Bishop Williams.
Good evening, everyone.
All right, how you doing?
And we have the Community Council Vice President.
Oh, he out here in the cut.
What's up, man?
What's going on, bro?
All right, y'all.
We also have. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, so without further ado, we're gonna start. This is gonna be for those who attended the last session. This is gonna be different, completely different from the last session. Probably even not what you expected. If you have any complaints or issues that you would like us to address, please speak to either myself or Detective Costa at the end of the meeting. We want to stick to the agenda, but we will make sure that we address those issues either at another meeting, and if it's something personal, we'll address that as well, okay? Are there any questions before we start? No questions? Okay, great. Without further ado, I'd like to bring up Lawrence Felder.
But y'all do gotta participate. Listen, I'm Lawrence Felder. A lot of people know me here as Larry. You can call me Larry if you want. I work for the fire department. I'm a fireman. We got another fireman over here too. Will, I wish you would shout him out. Your family.
I need y'all too. I need a trip to the fire department. Listen, my kids need a trip. I just told Fleas on before I leave.
This is another Larry right here too. So he's in Queens. You give it that firehouse. I'm in Brooklyn in front of my firehouse.
Yes, sir.
But so I'm from Hollis, Queens. So like I said, I'm a fireman. I also work with diversity inclusion unit in the fire department. We facilitate training and we do counseling, restorative justice things that are outside of like we do criminal justice system. We do restorative justice things, and I also do training called unconscious bias. I facilitate that training. And just to kind of give you guys a scope of what we're going to do, we're going to do a couple exercises that just kind of get us to come into basically more agreement. What you're going to hear today is an idea called one community. We have police officers here, we have the department, the police department, and we also have civilians, we have the community, we have community leaders. Last time I was here, I was impressed how many community leaders were here and how many people stood up and said things that they spoke from their heart, they spoke the truth with knowledge, and it really changed the atmosphere, and we got a lot of things done just for having a conversation. And we want to move that forward even right now today. So we have even a larger group here a little bit, and we're going to continue that. So I don't want to, she did? Oh, she's right there. Khadija, do you want to talk about one community before we start the exercise? Do you want to go right into it? Okay, cool. All right, so this is going to take some participation. Everyone should have this flyer right here, right? With the agenda. I want you to turn to the next page of it. It should say one community on the top. Now, give yourself about 20, 30 seconds to make this decision. But this is the question. If you could not be yourself, who would you most want to be? Now, I'm going to read them out loud, but you take a look and give yourself 20, 30 seconds to make a decision. An East Indian merchant with limited language skills and uncertain citizenship, a gay white male unemployed executive, a black female clerk with a GED, or the fourth option is a homeless recovering drug addicted father living in a car with 2 children. Homeless recovering drug addict father living in the car with 2 children. If you could not be yourself, who would you most want to be?
If I had to choose one, I would choose whichever one you want. I would have to know how to count.
Disadvantage?
I would know how to count.
And this? And now? Oh,
Listen, I got a GED. That's what it is.
you said she a hoe?
Oh, y'all can
Yeah. First of all, I only have one child. I'm one and done. I'm good. I'm happy with what I got. We get more. So yeah, we go with that. I don't need that. Unemployed executive. That's kind of bugging me out with that one. And I'm not gay, so that would work for me. And limited language skills. I need to talk to people. I can't do that. So it kind of makes sense why why I'm over here.
About this, but we are going to ask for one person to speak and represent the group. So just make sure.
We already know what we're gonna do. So we lit. You already know what it is. Gaming and guidance, HipHopGamer, the whole team. You know what I'm saying? This is what we're gonna do. You know what I'm saying? I spin the belt on that. You know what I mean? One community, baby. That's what we're doing. One love, one community, all day. Let's get it. We gonna figure this out together.
Does anybody else want to express why they chose?
Oh yeah, of course. I'm sorry.
Anybody else express why they
I chose 3 because she's a black female with a GED. So I figured she has a job and she has some education, and because of that, she can keep growing in her position and in life.
I think about my parents, they came here and they didn't really have the resources and the skills but they made something out of themselves. I remember growing up when I was little, we used to literally have one mattress on the floor in an apartment, and we used to sleep on it. And we had we lived in an apartment that had roaches and stuff, and just from going from there when I was little to now, it makes me proud of them. And I know that with the right resources.
One, that would be the category I'd have to choose, because first of all, it says that the East Indian merchant, so he already has tools that he's already qualified himself as something, so that sets him apart from some of the people in this group. And he has limited language skills and uncertain citizenship. I think those obstacles are obstacles that you can work through. And he's a merchant, so money talks. So I don't exactly know what you're saying, but if I'm getting the deal and you're showing it to me, I'm gonna go with that.
Voice first, right? We're gonna let them say why they chose 4, right? They chose the homeless, recovering, drug-addicted father with 2 kids. 2 more minutes?
Yeah. Just 2.
Sure. Go, take 2 more minutes.
These kids are going to be.
He's building his kids.
Right, he's building kids.
I'm retired. Are you? Yeah, I've been retired 6 years.
6 years?
But I've been.
Even when schools are closed, you know, I'm just looking at it from just even in a meeting the last 4 months.
Yeah.
Tell everyone why you guys picked that, and kind of just summarize what you got from everybody there. So who's that, Larry?
Loud and clear.
So Larry's gonna tell everybody why they picked 4. We'll come around. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Larry Washington. I'm representing the homeless recovery drug addict father living in a car with 2 children. Now, where we went with it is first, it was a personal experience. Most of us, like what's saying, me, myself, I went through a drug program at a young age, growing through, and we're all fathers. And then we had to come back and we connected with the part about him, him going through something and still keeping the responsibility of being a father. The fatherhood was a great message. Now, him being a father and still having his 2 kids and going through this situation, it made us feel that he is somebody that, you know what I mean, his foundation, because you can't get no lower than where he was at with the homelessness. And we feel that him with that strength alone is a trigger for him to, you know, have a purpose and build in life. So us going through that, and if we couldn't be ourselves, I feel putting me in that situation or putting us in that situation with what we do now, it would only make us come out even greater.
I'm a student here at your college, and my group chose number 1, East Indian merchant with limited language skills and uncertain citizenship. So I could relate to my group that a lot of them identified this person with themselves because they feel a merchant with limited language skills coming into this country. They feel they're hardworking, they're driven, they have a passion for what they do, and their drive just won't stop. Me, on the other hand, I identified this with my parents, because both of them came to this country not knowing how to speak English. They still can't speak English. Like I try to talk to them, it's just, I was telling my group, they probably know like 5 words. Yeah. But I was telling them my father, if I list his resume, the list goes on forever. Like he's worked, he knows how to be a mechanic. He was a taxi driver. He owns his own business right now. And even though he came here and started struggling, not knowing the language, that didn't stop him. Yeah. He rose up and he always provided for his kids. He has 5 kids and still providing for us whatever I need. Even though I'm a grown man right now, I could say, I still go to him for anything. And it's just a person that I respect a lot.
Right, the value of what it means to come into a country, not your own, and still have to work hard and persevere and push yourself. Then you talked about family, and you talked about fatherhood again. You grew up, you talked about someone in your life, you talked about fatherhood, that continue to persevere and saying that even though I don't understand, maybe we might understand language, your parents might not speak the language right now, but they raised you, now you speak the language. So I see the connection there with family again, right? All right.
So we chose number 2, which is gay white male unemployed executive. And we chose this because in a world like today, if you were to ask somebody of where they wanted, if they wanted to succeed, it's most likely going to be somebody of a lighter skin complexion in a community in today's world. So in number 2, it says right there off the bat, we noticed the words white, male, and executive, and those are words that scream success, and other words, privilege. So it would have been easier for somebody like this guy to, I guess, build his way back up, considering that he has lighter skin, or that he's a male, and he comes from a background of wealth. So that's why we chose.
Yeah. So you talked about opportunities. It's still there. Opportunity for success, and you still have a level of privilege in the society because of the makeup of the person that you said, white, being male. We understand in this kind of this culture, that's still somebody that can have ability to move up, right? There's still the ability, and there might not be as many shortcomings as we might view. But you talked about success, talked about privilege, and talked about the ability to still move up, right? Yeah.
What's your name again? Gerard Williams, also known as HipHopGamer. So number 3 is black female clerk with GED. Yeah. So one of the reasons why we chose that was because education. You know what I'm saying? Got GED. So with education and actually having a job, you can utilize those 2 tools to get more, and you also have a starting point of having more stability from a starting point. And then on top of that, being a black female, period, that it comes from a standpoint of a lot of pain. And the thing is, with this pain, you don't want to live that life of pain, and there's no other answer to that. So I feel like seeing somebody like that, and me being a black person, I could obviously relate to that. So the job, the education, and the inspiration to go forward, that's why we chose that.
Rob, let me go. You got something?
Yeah, actually, I got a GED myself. Started off as a clerk when I was younger, but the black females.
I don't think they had you over there.
I started with a GED, and then I worked my way up from there, some college, and I ended up here. Started as a clerk, whatever. But all the black females that I know, very determined, very powerful women. You put those combinations together, education, starting point, that determination, you're in good shape.
Facts.
So I heard job. First of all, you got a job. First of all, there's a level of success. You have a starting point with education, so you have a level to move up, right? And then the hard work, determination. You've dealt with pain already, but now you can still persevere. Everybody that I know, somebody says, I can relate to that experience, being in a position of pain, being not having, but able to persevere and go through that. And the people that you were in a relationship with showed you that. That's what I kind of heard from you guys just now.
Did you hear from a lady?
I would love to hear from a lady.
What about young people? What about you, Grandma? No, what about the young people? Go ahead, honey.
Say your name. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so say my name?
Yeah.
My name is Kenya. I picked black female clerk with GED because a lot of the times we like to associate GED as like a bad word. Like, just because they didn't get their high school diploma doesn't mean that they're not as qualified as someone who did get their high school diploma, but she got her GED. So she has education and she has a job. So she has the foundation for success. She might not have it all together right now, but what she has, the job and the education, she can go a lot farther than anyone on these lists.
Got you. So I heard, first of all, you got a good foundation that's going to take you off into success, right? I got you. Yeah. Yeah. No. I just want to make sure I got you.
So all you guys are for? Yeah. So it's along the same line.
Actually, you don't wait. Hold on. I gotta take.
There's a lot of us here. So
I get the right. We didn't start yet. I get the right to change.
Time out.
I get the right to change. We're human. We have the right to change our minds. You know what I'm saying? We have the right to change our minds.
you could relapse. You could also become an addict.
Yeah.
That's in any of those lanes. You could get caught up just because you were there before. Any of them could at some point. He wasn't one either. Right? I just think the uncertainty thing. That's
father with 2 kids.
you build all of that. Next thing you know.
This frustration and loneliness. You automatically will get stereotyped. If you're working as a clerk with a GED, people think you're not intelligent. So it can be a little frustrating trying to converse with someone on an intellectual level. They think because you have a GED, you don't know what you're talking about, or your thinking points may be at a certain level. And then loneliness, don't necessarily be single, as a black lady with a GED, it'll be an uphill battle. Every day fighting uphill battle. And you'll just feel lonely, self-worth may start to weigh on, and sort of mental aspect of an individual can really be challenged. So that's why I chose that.
I mean, mental health is important. And if your mental health is challenged on a regular daily basis, that can be a traumatic experience every single day. So I hear you saying there's a lot, that's a lot to deal with, and that loneliness. You can feel alone in your battle, right? And so you might have some things to go, but that's still a struggle. That same, I'm not sure if I want to do that, right? Got you.
Looking at that every day.
Yeah, an everyday battle. Got you. This is group 1. Who's gonna, Ray, you got something?
All right, so I'm Ray. We got number 1. We picked East Indian merchant with the limited language skills and uncertain citizenship. We picked this one for the current climate that we currently find ourselves in. If you're of other ethnicity, you got a language barrier, you could be deported at any time. So it doesn't matter how much your business is established or what you have. With the uncertain citizenship in this climate, you just lose it all. So that's why we kind of came to that consensus.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like very stable. And you think about the culture, you think about, what's going on right now. How do you make sure that your business could even flourish right now if you get kicked out the country, right? All right. Yeah, it's tough. It's not easy. This is the 3rd largest group. That's definitely the largest group. Who we got?
Hi, how are you? Officer Alexander from the 103rd, and I have a nice little group over here.
Yes.
We chose the option 2, gay, white, male, unemployed, and executive. The reason why we chose number 2 was it's kind of hard to be on top and then get knocked down. When you're on top and you're used to a certain lifestyle, status, and you get it taken away from you, it's not easy to adjust to come back and be the little person, and it's not easy to regroup. Usually with that, you get a lot of depression, suicides. People can't cope. They cannot not be a boss. So that's one of the reasons why we chose number 2, because it's going to be a real big adjustment in this new lifestyle.
So dealing with acceptance, but also the fact that if you get knocked down, how are you going to get back up?
Yes.
That's difficult. Right? It's not always easy to go get that job the same level when you lost your job, if that's the case or situation. So being able to persevere and still get to that success, it's not always easy. It's not always what people make it out to be. I got you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Shah, what's up?
I feel like we all basically.
I need to take a match. I need to speak out.
I feel like we all really chose this because like the 2 children kind of stood out, and like we wouldn't all want to put our kids in that situation. I touched on like how I need a role model. Like as a child, when I look up to my dad, I want to see like a role model, and I feel like if I'm a homeless, recovering, drug addicted father, that wouldn't really like, I wouldn't be that hero for my kids, and yeah, that's it.
So anybody else? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So just to touch
Can you
on,
take that down just for a second?
Just to touch on what he said.
What's your name too?
DJ Sparks. So just to touch on what he said, I mean, being homeless is one thing, and that's something you can't overcome. But we all pretty much decided that having an addiction can be something that's so strong and overwhelming for a person that somebody could relapse. They could like lose their whole mental state, and really you have 2 people depending on you. That could be a really, really bad situation.
I hear the importance of family. When you say that, being able to be dependable. You said you know about being first of all, you need a mentor. Parents are mentors. We're heroes to our kids. That's a part of it, right? And also being addicted to something, that's a serious thing. I mean, listen, there's enough trauma that goes around, but trauma compared with relation to an addiction is serious. Yeah. And how are we going to raise our family, right, maybe in that situation? I hear that kind of.
So everybody read the scenario. We have like 2 minutes. And then I'm going to see if there's any questions in regards to that scenario.
Loss prevention officers. Police arrive and are informed by the loss prevention officers that there may be a weapon in the stroller. The police officers begin to speak with the woman when the baby starts to cry. The woman begins to reach for the stroller. Which response would you most agree with? Take a second, look at the responses. Who's got it already? Who's already there? Got a couple people. Who's still deciding? Raise your hand if you're still deciding.
Still deciding.
Oh, all right. Still deciding. All right. Everybody there? All right, you guys got to rest. Make your way over to the number again. Pick that number. You guys got to rest now. Head over to that number again. So whatever number that you're in line with, who would you most want to be? What you want to most be with?
Yeah, number two. Yeah, I'm waiting for number two. Yeah.
I think there needs to be more on this whole thing. But I mean,
see, but you know what's so funny? It's like this is just the way I'm thinking. But the reason why it's structured that way in terms of the way it was written is because in real life, these moments are split-second decisions.
Right.
So you're not gonna have all the information no matter what. So we're not supposed to have all the information here. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like written out to be as close to what it would be in real life. You know, but to me, I think that the reason why number two is the best case scenario is because maybe a weapon, possible weapon, it relates to one another in terms of the scenario. Everything else doesn't relate to the story.
Any other line of thinking?
I guess considering from the point of view of an officer, I agree with number four only because you do want to treat her as if she could have a weapon and you don't know whether she's going to be aggressive or not. So I feel like number four is the most reasonable only because you just talk to her, keep her distracted while your partner goes away and kind of like does a little research. I feel like all the other options are a little too aggressive and could provoke her. And
The paragraph, you don't have all the information. You clearly don't have all the information. That's good. Slow things down, conduct an investigation. Anybody else?
In witnessing, you just said for the police, so there's three sides to the story.
Always.
So to me, if one police officer grabs a person and just start talking to them, and one uses the camera, it's like they're trying to get every side of the story together, then come to a conclusion.
They're trying to reach, but like if her baby is crying, you know what I'm saying, you gotta tend to her first, or the baby, and then kind of de-escalate the situation and try to handle it properly than just grabbing her and arresting her, because that's kind of messed up, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like de-escalate, calm her down, and then talk, you know what I'm saying? So that's how I feel. It's basically get to a place of de-escalation, right? Tend to the baby, right? Why you say tend to the baby? They're gonna cry. You gotta calm it down and then talk. You can't just arrest her and the baby's crying. Right. I got you. Go ahead.
Number four is most appropriate. Number four is most appropriate because you're dealing with a difficult dichotomy. The dichotomy is a mother being matriarchal is going to be naturally concerned about that child. But then the police also have a concern to make sure they can de-escalate the situation. So I think number four is most appropriate to address both
Because
things.
when a mother's dealing with their child, we understand that that's a basic life. That's primal, right? That's primal. We don't interrupt that, right?
Ask her not to do it.
But
being a mother.
But you also said the police officers have a job to do to figure out what's going on. So de-escalating is the process we do first, and then figure out what's going on. Okay. The next large. Oh yeah, Olivia.
I think covered it, but basically, I guess we chose number four only because it matters how you approach the situation. You can provoke it and cause a lot of problems with not just them but the other people in the store. She could have a gun, we don't know, but it's best to assume and treat the situation as calmly as possible.
Yeah, address with calmly saying, right, how you approach something. Your tone matters, right? Your attitude, your right, how you go towards something matters. That's okay. Are you in 2 or 1?
Oh, he's in 1.
Yeah,
I thought he was in.
Right. You gotta go with you. You gotta go with you.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. My bad. All right, okay. So, all right, cool. Bet. So, like, the reason why, y'all can hear me? We lit? All right. So the reason why I chose number 2 is because the part in the description where it says there may be a weapon, maybe doesn't mean it is or not, but because it says regarding the possible weapon grab, I feel like it's cool to check that out because there may be or maybe not. So you kind of covering bases from the officer side. But with that, you also let the mother address the baby. So if you ain't got nothing to hide, then you should freely be willing to address your baby because you got nothing to hide if this person is searching, because as a cop, you heard something, so you got to make sure both sides is clear. And I think after it's clear, like that's all it says. No harm, no foul, and everybody can move on as long as everybody's on the up and up. There's no problem.
Yeah.
That's why I felt that was right.
Appropriate response, like dealing with both, right? Understanding the possibility of a weapon, but at the same time, dealing with that, right, appropriately.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I don't know if there's a weapon or not, so I'm not gonna come at you like there is. I'm gonna come at you in a way where it may be. So, miss, take care of your child because she's crying. I'm gonna search this. Oh, no weapon? Cool. You got your child? Cool. What's going on?
Yeah. I think you got something, a little bit of shit.
I think so too.
I think so too. Yeah, go ahead.
Well.
We got
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, yeah, I told you.
Okay, I was just gonna piggyback what he's saying. If she had anything to hide, I'd simply say, okay, ma'am, the step aside, let's search the stroller just to make sure everything is safe, and then let her proceed to take care of the baby. Because you don't know what's wrong with the baby at the time, and you don't know there's a weapon. There's a lot of maybes and all these things we're getting into. So I want to make sure the officers and scenes are safe, and also her and her babies as well is safe. And also, just literally what you said also, I'll at the same time also explain to her, like, hey, there's a reason why we're doing this. This is this situation that's being unfolded to us. So that's the reason why we're taking certain actions.
Yeah, I hear you saying make sure it's safe and communicate at the same time. Yes. Right? Yes. Okay, I got you.
Goods and let her go and not return back to the store. Because, first of all, it was false information saying there may be a gun. You shouldn't put that type of statement on a lady with a stroke.
And adding on to what he was saying with that part about that, there's a different way that I would have asked for the lady to pick up her own child, and then I would have searched the stroller. So that's another part to that scenario. I don't want nobody addressing me and my child and then putting a woman in that type of scenery. And it's a lot of I would address, I would arrest, and there's no dialogue that's going on. So going into the part about, listen, if you pick up the baby, we heard that there was a situation. Can you just pick up your baby out the stroller and let us search the stroller, not search the female in the baby part?
I hear what you're saying. Communication. Let's have some dialogue, and also let's not do some false things. Let's not put false information out there that kind of ruins the whole communication. And let's find out what the situation is first before we start accusing somebody that could be mother, right, of the child. And I hear the communication being a big deal, right? Okay. Now the smallest group, guys. The smallest group.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Oh, you want to add something?
Oh no, I'm not gonna add.
Okay, all right. So this is one. Why do you most agree with this one?
Initially reading it, knee-jerk reaction, apprehended by a loss prevention officer, and a potential weapon being involved. Again, upon initial reading, I assume that she stole based upon the apprehension by loss prevention. That's a crime, is an arrest, right? But rereading it now, I'd end up picking number 2.
Picking number 2?
Yeah, picking number 2. Yeah.
And why would you do that?
Because having a little more time to investigate it and getting a better overall picture, I could better assess the situation. And for me, I'd find it be number 2.
I hear you saying taking the time to find out what's going on is important. Now you're saying still, a crime was committed so arrest can be made. Absolutely. But still, taking the time to investigate, being in communication, that's what we really want to do. You want to add anything to that? Or you good? Okay. In agreement. All right, 10-4. All right, so listen, you want to end it right?
So, basically, the purpose of this whole... Oh. You all can take it.
No, give yourselves a hand clap, actually, because that was actually really good. You guys actually really what you said. Good job.
Y'all are going to have to do it one more time. I'm just letting you know. But the purpose of this exercise, right? As you can see, you're all split up in groups, right? And within the groups, there were police officers, there was community members, right? But we all had similar ideas and opinions when we got to speak about everything, right? The first exercise that you did was a value-based exercise, right? So what happens is by you all getting in groups, you got to see what each person's values were. And what people agreed with. So it created a common ground for both you as well as the officers. So even though you were in, and everybody was in their own group, you saw that you had some sort of common value with the officers. And we're all people, and there can always be, I guess, a ground where we can kind of communicate on, that we can understand one another.
Yeah, let me piggyback off that. What you guys voted for in those scenarios, it wasn't just to pick something, but you picked your values. See, what you expressed to me after you picked, you expressed to me your values. And so I'm gonna do a little bit so we can get a picture of what actually happened. You guys picked in a scenario and it was tough, right? It was some options that you really couldn't, I don't really know. But everything that came for you told me about who you were. And not only did you tell me that, you told somebody else that. Not only did you tell somebody else that, you told somebody else that was standing on the other side of the room from you with a total different perspective. You told them as well. Let me give you an example. When we talked about the earlier one, right? We talked about the Indian merchant with limited language skills and uncertain citizenship. And the people that represented that, they spoke about being able to have a level of success. And they weren't going to be stopped. And they had ability to be hardworking and endure and push through. Did you guys realize that you heard that same thing from the black female clerk over here? The people that stood over here said, no, they know what pain is. They know how difficult it is, and it can still rise up. Their ability to work hard, and that's a value. And they have a foundation of success that they can build off of. I always give the people over here, I like the guys over here, and the men that stood up and represented fatherhood. Because the person that represented the East Indian merchant was talking about having success, not only for himself, but for his family. The hard working was a family tradition. When Wilkins was talking about that, he said he learned that from his grandfather, right? From his father. So even with the limited language skills, he was able to persevere. These fathers said, I work from the bottom. I understand what it means, rock bottom, but I'm going to persevere through it. See, there's a brotherhood, there's a camaraderie about being a father, and that makes you say, I want to be a hero to my kids, whatever the situation is. I'm going to persevere. That hard work and that family value came through that, right? So even the people that picked the gay white male and unemployed said, listen, I can succeed. There's still some things that I have that can go. I might be unemployed right now, but I can succeed. That same thing, why do they want to succeed? Because there's values that they have. They want to be hardworking. They don't want to just give up. They still want to stand. Now, the second part was a little bit more revealing. We said the values, well, why wouldn't I want to be that person? Now, I love this part because sometimes we pick things, and this is what we want to talk about. We pick things based on our bias. And everybody has bias, but sometimes we pick things based on our bias. Some people said, man, I don't ever want to be here because, man, listen, if you're addicted to a drug, that's serious. That's nothing to play with. And I'm not willing to put my kids through that. You know what I'm saying? That's real. But sometimes our bias tells us the story and it's not even really there. Because I like to say this, and let's just think about it, caffeine is a drug. Some people are addicted to caffeine and they can't stop drinking soda. They can't stop drinking coffee. And I always say, sometimes we think of the drug as being cocaine or heroin or something that can terrorize a community for years and years and years and generations. But sometimes you just want to get off the drug because you want to just cut some fat. Sometimes being a homeless father, I'll give this, look at the scenario again, a homeless, recovering, drug-addicted father, right? He's recovering, first of all. He's already accomplished that. But I always say this, the homeless, he has his 2 kids in the car because he sold his home in New York and he's moving to California right now to buy a bigger home for his kids. So he's actually right now in transition in his life. He's recovering, he's in transition, he's not stopping. He's actually sold his home, driving across in his range, and he's going now to California and he's purchasing a larger crib. Right now he's homeless, but he's traveling with his sons. He's traveling with his son and daughter. Sometimes our bias tells the story for us and it's not even there. Read it again. It doesn't say that he's addicted to heroin. It doesn't say that he doesn't have $6 million in the bank. It doesn't say that, but we put a bias on it. And this is the thing, the value is still family. When you talked about addiction, it wasn't because, oh, you know, I just don't want to be addicted to drugs. It was like, I want to be able to take care of my sons or my children. Absolutely. It was about family. The same value over here with the East Indian merchant. See, the values are being expressed here, right? Somebody said over here with the gay white male, he said, listen, in this society, I'm still going to be able to be who I am. Same person over here said, I relate to the person over here, the black female clerk. I heard, where is he at? One of the officers said, man, my mother was that person. My mother was that person where people looked at and talked down on. There he goes, right over there. He said, listen, I grew up with that experience. See, the value was there was family again, the sense of belonging. And he saw his mother persevere and work hard. I heard that story over here, but the same story I heard over here. See, the values are being expressed. Now, this is the key. The reason why we do it is to bring awareness to our bias. You sat in the seat over there and said, this is the reason why I would never be this person. And this is the reason why I definitely want to be this person. And that's fine. Everybody has their bias. It's not wrong to have bias. You're not a bad person because you have bias. But you got to know when your bias is affecting your decisions and not your values. So when we look at the surface, you might see somebody. And now we got to look at this next scenario. The next scenario is a little tougher because now we got real decisions with somebody's life. You had some things written down. We talked about what was said, right?
I have a few things written down, talked about what was said. I'm Officer Jones, work at the 103rd Precinct Community Affairs Office with Sergeant Faison, Detective Costa, and Officer Mary Lawrence. As you guys know, Commander Tavallaro is my commander. But every single group, again, piggybacking on what my partner here says, dealt with values. Aside from the officers that are here, how many people here have some experience in police work? Okay, one. Well, security, any sort of policing, police type work. 2, 3, 4. Still the minority of the group. 5. Still the minority of the group. However, again, there was 3 key things that every group cross-represented despite the groups that you chose. Everybody was concerned for the crying baby, right? Yes? Yes. Everybody wanted to address. Although you guys chose different ways of addressing it, everybody wanted to address that crying baby. Okay? So that shows everyone's value within family, right? Handle it differently. There's no right or wrong answers here. But again, you had that value with family. Everyone talked about de-escalation. There was a gentleman over here that spoke about, it was you, who spoke about communication, communicating to her what you were going to do with the baby. You wanted to search for the weapon. Again, that sense of communication was expressed by every single group, yes? You wanted to make sure the mother was clear on what you were going to do. You wanted to make sure loss prevention was clear on what you were going to do, what you were there for. You were there to solve a problem. And the last thing that everyone mentioned was safety. Everyone was concerned about the possibility of this weapon. Whether it existed or not, you guys all wanted to address the weapon. So your safety, people in the store's safety, loss prevention safety, everybody's safety was paramount in everybody's mind. Again, even though you handled it differently. So again, those values are what we want to focus on when we are, dare I say, relating with.
Caught in between, you had a little bit of issue. Said, initially I picked one. Why'd you pick one, Rob? Because it was a crime committed. Initially he wanted to operate by protocol. I want to operate by protocol, which is the right thing for a cop to do, to operate by protocol. We always talk about accountability. Last time we were here, we talked about accountability. There's protocols that guide cops to do the right thing. They gotta operate by protocol and responsibility, not only for them, but for their families. If they're not operating by protocol, they lose their jobs. And the same way we talked about family before, they gotta do the right thing. The books say to do the right thing, they gotta do the right thing. Now this is the thing. What was your second perspective?
Reading it more thoroughly and getting more information.
Right. It didn't say it definitely was a weapon. A lot of people caught that. You know, Adam, we talked about this before, right? Sometimes it's hard to go, we got to inspect the weapon, but it doesn't say there's definitely a weapon, right? We talked about it, right? I want to give perspective now. A lot of people said this is the mother of the child. Where does this, look at it again. Where does it say that she's the mother of the child? Oh. Okay, what do you have? See, that's our bias right there. See, our bias tells us there's a woman pushing a stroller and she's pregnant and this is her baby in the stroller. Cops don't have the liberty to make that decision. They don't have the liberty to operate by that bias because we know that there's some people that commit crimes with distractions with them, things that tell another story so they can go inside of a store and come out of it and seemingly innocent. Cops don't have the same liberty as civilians. They live at a higher standard. They got to inspect things. But this is the thing. We care about family enough to say, I'm going to check the value there. And so should cops. Rob talked about it a lot. We talked about it the other day. When you take the time to look at the situation and you get the information, everybody talks about communication, dialogue. Get some information before you're making a decision. And Inspector, do you want to speak on this a little bit? I want to give you an opportunity if you want to jump in here. You got to take the time. Okay. You got to take the time to do the proper investigation. That's a part of the protocol as well. That's the same part of doing the right thing and making sure you keep your job to take care of your family. So the same, yeah, what's your name?
I can't hear you.
What's your name?
Saku.
Okay, Saku.
Yeah. So with the scenario, it also say that she was apprehended. But how do you know there was an actual crime? So that's another, bias right there. Because I'm, not with you, but that's why,
You have the right to apprehend somebody, but it doesn't say a crime was committed. When you check the cameras, speak on it, right? Go ahead.
All right, so that's the other thing you gotta remember. The other thing, we both got, as a community, we want the police to get to understand us. We gotta understand the job that the police do. He mentioned time. You don't got time. When you come into a situation, you gotta assess from the time you get out of that patrol car or you walking up to the time you go into that scenario. There's no, you don't have 20, 30 minutes to assess everything. So the job is to take the escalation from here and bring it down, to use tactics because you don't have enough time to deal with that situation. Get as much intel as possible. So say apprehended and say arrested. Say weapon, but they say what kind of weapon. So you got to really look at what it's saying.
I understand.
That's right.
Force, professionalism,
Right.
respect, and courtesy. That's the first three things they should be worried about because ain't nobody better or higher. They got a job.
You hear that?
They have a job. So their job is to watch us as they watch themselves. Ain't nobody higher. Courtesy, professional, and respect is the main three things they go by. So there's no higher.
Poppy, thank you, because he led to everything. He said the last word. He said respect. See, the reason why this is the reason why we did this value voting exercise. He just said it just now, because we have bias and we have to respect it. Everybody comes here with their own bias. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up because you didn't get it right away. Don't beat yourself up because you come from a place that when you see something, that's what it means. When some people come from a community, when they see a cop, that means danger. When they see a cop, some people come from a community, when they see a cop, it means safety. Don't be afraid of your bias. It's real. But if you're aware of your own bias, now you can have a conversation with somebody and have mutual respect. Give me 1 second. Give me one second. And this is the thing. This is the reason why we had this conversation. We did the exercise is for us to see each other's perspectives and bias and differences and similarities so we can have one community. Like the vision of what we had to do with community affairs. We want to have one community where police officers, we're cops, we're civilians, we're community leaders, the people that are here right now, we're one. So when you see somebody, you don't assume that he's doing something that's violating who you are. He's being accountable with his job position. And he's operating by the standard that he's supposed to operate by. And then when you're a community member, you're not operating outside the law, and you're not threatened, or you're not feeling so threatened and fearful that you're doing something outside of the law. Because you're being accountable for your own community. You're taking a stand and doing what's right, and in relationship, you guys work together. And that means respect. You don't have to agree with every person's viewpoint. But when you see the value underneath, see the value says, man, I care about family just like he cares about family. Khadijah cares about family just like I care about success and being able to be motivated. I care about coming from the bottom and making it to the top. I care about my kids. I care about my potential. I care about my well-being. Everybody does that. And when you see that in somebody, you can respect them. And now we can start working together to work on solutions. How's that sound?
And that goes to the next part of the agenda. We're going to go into the think tank. But before we go into the think tank, I want everybody to just take a minute to just read the mission and vision. It's the mission of NYPD, and then there's also the mission of community affairs. That's on the agenda. I want everybody to take a moment, right, on the agenda. You see the mission and vision of both NYPD and community affairs. So the mission of NYPD is to be New York's finest, right? And the mission of community affairs is to be police and community working together. The vision, right? That's everything that's underneath it. So the vision of NYPD is to enhance the quality of life in New York City by working in partnership with the community to enforce the law, preserve peace, reduce fear, and maintain order, right? So, as you can see, we're working with the community to enforce the law, preserve peace, reduce fear, and maintain order, right? But the NYPD had to expand on that because everything only works better when you work in partnership with the community. So they created a separate bureau, right? And that's the Community Affairs Bureau, and that's police and community working together. And that was established to foster positive and productive police-community relations by partnering with community leaders, civic organizations, block associations, and concerned individuals. Community Affairs works to create solutions for problems that arise within the city's many communities. But we're focusing on the 103. So we're gonna focus on the community within the 103. And that's us becoming one community. Now I said you're gonna have to get up again, but I'm really not gonna make y'all do that because y'all are kinda in groups. I'm just gonna ask a couple of people to shift a little bit. So you can stay there. I want you to go over here. Savon, please go over there, like by 3. B, please just sit over there. Can you all just come up here? Just come in the seat. So this is still group 4, right? Group 1, group 2, group 3. I need you to kind of get in a semicircle, right? Because we're going to go into the solution part of this. So each group kind of get in a semicircle because I have some problems.
Uniform of a police officer, the uniform of police officer puts on had started their shift as representational of their duty as public servants to protect and serve the community. When an officer puts on their uniform, it doesn't make them any less different than a person who puts on a different type of uniform to start their day. Both individuals are going to work so they can provide for their families. Unfortunately, when people put on a specific uniform of a police officer, they're no longer viewed as a person, but one of them, quote, one of them. And sometimes a potential target. Unfortunately, there have been officers and incidents where officers don't protect and serve the community or do what they should be doing at their job. Example, George Floyd.
The chokehold bill makes sitting kneeling or standing on the chest or back in a manner that compresses the diaphragm in the course of effecting or attempting to effect and arrest a crime. Effective immediately, while the department works on figuring out new arrest tactics, officers are left unsure how to effect an arrest without opening themselves to criminal or civil liability. 2 to 3 patrol cars are now to respond to a radio call in case an arrest has to be made, ensuring there are enough officers present to limit any struggles during the arrest process.
They're all great ideas. But remember, we're dealing with the youth, right? So what do we feel would be the best solution there, or the most applicable solution there in terms of engaging the youth, the police, and the community? It's really 3 different things, because we know necessarily the youth kind of stand out. It's in a world of its own.
All these civic organizations, we do have all these block associations, so we can have them also volunteer and say, okay, this is our neighborhood too, so we can be outside there, police our own.
Police our own, but we need police, we need respectful police.
Yeah, but you could match a police officer with a person specifically.
Well, we gotta show the neighborhood that it's police, that your family member could be a police. You have to have respect and respect the police, so whoever's a police, just respect them. Because your family member could be a police, so we need police in our neighborhood.
I think you misunderstood.
But that's not the problem. The problem is, right now, the problem is saying without affecting the numbers of the police jobs that are handled by the sector officers. So, I mean, with my theology, it definitely goes into what you were saying in regards to securing ourselves. And I mean, to a degree where we can deal with a trusted security company, so to say, that we could be able to have an outside contract. And it's an outside contract outside of the NYPD that we might be able to establish a trusted security company, so to say.
Right. No physical or verbal interaction, and that's not even jobs that I've had to go to. But when it comes down to now, from what the paperwork that you're reading, increased presence of police because now this new bill that went into play. If you're trying to apprehend somebody, or even horseplaying around with anybody, and you want to pin somebody down, how are you doing it? You have to mount them, you have to get on top of them, you have to control their body, right? So if you're trying to pin their shoulders down, how are you doing that if now you have to stay off the court? How can you do that? You know, how are you going to tackle somebody without applying pressure? If that's the case too, how am I going to give somebody CPR therapy? It's chest compression, but everybody only looks at it from the aspect of the department and saying, oh, they're choking him, they're doing this, and that's, again, I address the issue. Nobody thinks that it was okay, but when it comes down to it, there's a whole level that people don't understand that are different goes forward, man. That how can I do certain other things that are positive or proactive?
Yes, there's two things that we did speak around in roundtable one. It was the sociology part, the social of the cops being in areas and being social with them. And then I was speaking and trying to learn on the jiu-jitsu side of things, using their weight and things against them on the martial arts. I also said let's throw in the tactic of, if you already got the body cam, it should help you in court or in the process. If the body cam is on, because these ones that weren't doing what they supposed to, body cams weren't on when they're doing certain activities that they're not supposed to. If it's a mandated thing for you to have your body camera on, and a person can actually see you in the altercation, at least trying to use the takedown tactic.
No problem, but I'll see you around. And then you can't force something that's not there. Your action has, now I'm just like talking in general, but your action has to be the thing that's the icebreaker. So it's just like if you're in a situation, I'm starting to get it now. I'm starting to get it now. I'm starting to get it now.
But do you also understand the power that comes with that? Because the power that comes with that, when you
What did you say, officer?
But see, the thing
at
is,
that time, that wouldn't be a good time to do
the
it.
thing is, at that time,
Yeah.
the damage has been done so much that it doesn't matter what I do or say, I'm actually making it worse in that moment. In that moment, I'm making it worse.
Right.
So the thing is, it has to be a situation where, let's say I'm policing. No, I'm not giving up on anything.
He said he'll see you again.
No, I'm not giving up on her. See, the thing is, you have to allow something to happen to create the trust. You can't force it. So let's say there's a situation where something happened, right? To her or with her, or let's say her sister or a brother, something was happening to them, and I was the one there to protect. Now it's like, you know what, I was being real foul to this person, and that person isn't what I thought they was, but based on past experiences, I just labeled them. So the thing is, because all you saw is a uniform, so you can't force what's not there. But all you have to do is continue to do your part, and if you are who you say you are, the truth will be revealed.
So he wants to cover Queens for this issue. He's throwing me on the ground. Now my entire, even if I didn't have my relationship with you was kind of rocky and it wasn't felt solidified, my entire viewpoint on officers is going to be F the police, yada yada, because that's how the young people think, right? That's how they think. If no matter what you do, no matter how great my relationship with you is, the moment I get brutalized, whatever it is that is negative to them, their whole point of view now is like, you know what? Forget the cops. I was cool with him, but now he represents them.
We got to get rid of it. All of a sudden, I got a badge and a gun. I'm worse than the guy that lives way out. Upstate New
that's
York.
true. That's true.
Because I got to axe the grind. So it's not where it's about the cop himself and why they take the job.
Yeah.
Because we don't take the job to get rich.
You got nurses with the same at Jamaica and LIJ. Why you go?
Because I live in a reality world.
Why?
Why do I live in a reality world?
Yeah.
Or
So
why
why
am I
you ain't going to
Long
Jamaica
Island?
right now?
Because
No stipulations to Jamaica.
I'm actually.
Yeah.
Most likely in Jamaica, the quality of services that I'm going to get, because it's geared towards a more minority neighborhood, is not going to be that high.
But you just told me a nurse in a uniform. You just told me I'm civilian. I'm a nurse in a uniform. That you're going to treat me the same, and you're not treating me the same.
No, wait. I said to you what?
One hospital, I'm not going to get good service in my uniform as a nurse.
Now, I'm going to tell you what I said.
That's what you just told me.
No, I'm going to tell you what I said. You asked the question, you said, why is it that a nurse can wear a uniform and doesn't have to take off a uniform. And I was explaining that the stigmatization would be based on if there was a long history of nurses creating havoc or murdering people or killing people. Now that nurse uniform would signify something negative.
But you just said me as a nurse in Jamaica Hospital, because I'm in a certain demographic area, I'm not going to give you the right service as in a different area. You just told me that.
What they think the solution is,
You're POC for one point and you're POC for another, right? What is the, I guess, the law enforcement, like what are you guys doing, or how can you bring it up to your higher ups in order to integrate other cops that are, like you said, they're just patrol through radio, right?
Yeah.
How do you get them integrated into what you're doing? How do you get them involved into where you're at? Like, is there a rotating schedule? Is there a possibility of doing that to kind of get them involved and have more of an understanding of what you're doing and how you're able to coach them through that? So that way when they're back on radio patrol or whatnot, they can do what you're doing because they've learned from you.
So we're in specialized units. So that's why we're more community acting. I'm dealing with the youth. He deals with housing. He deals with the youth. You know, whatever it is, we flip-flop, and we're all integrated, and we're all in the same office. We all talk about whatever problems. If he has a problem in the 40s and it's a 12-year-old kid, then it's both our problem. Then we take care of it together, and then we address it, you know, and then I'm bringing out the programs. Then I work with these guys in the schools. They come in, we do gaming and guidance. You know, it's one thing after another that we try to do, and we try to interact with communities and try to help. Now, with the sectors and the radio calls, they have the same people in the same sector. So Sector Adam has the same 4 cops in that rotating schedule. Sector Boy, David, Charlie, they all have those same 2 cops. And then you have the response autos. So when they're busy on jobs, then the response autos comes in. So it's always those same cops, but there's always going to be different people also going in. So there's really, unless they have 4 people in each sector, it's going to be hard to, you know, depending on where the job's coming from.
Care for how I do my job. You don't know if I care or not. I'm just not willing to go and talk to people.
I'm going to question it, and if it's a problem with how you do your job, then I'm going to go to our supervisors and we're going to have a discussion about it.
We can have a discussion. Wait, and have full discussion. Hold up, I'm still a cop and having full discussion. I could have sworn he tried his best to go to the people.
No, well, now
hold on, let me don't stop my way. Wait a minute. Wait a second. Wait a second.
Yeah.
All right, hold up. And you did you just come back and say you tried to talk to them and they didn't want to talk to you?
And that's fine, because I understand where they're coming from, and rightfully so.
Okay, say that then. I didn't hear that. You just said, oh, what are we going to do? Last I heard, you came back from out of the field and they didn't want to talk.
Nah, I understand where they're coming from, and rightfully so.
A lot of them don't understand where we're coming from. That's the thing. They think that they understand, and that's where we just don't meet up. They think that they understand, and they don't understand.
So now, here's what I would say.
She's a cop too. And she might even necessarily agree with me, but she's really on the same wavelength.
She's a cop too.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying.
So, officer, you know how I feel?
I don't.
You don't know how I feel.
Because if I haven't been in your position, I don't know how you feel. I can try to grasp how you feel. I can try to understand, but I won't really understand how you feel because I haven't been in your shoes.
Stay on different trips and things. You know what I'm saying? And so unfortunately, like, there is a disconnect at home with a lot of the young people. And like you said, where they say, yo, the church is doing something, yo, take them. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So like,
and it's not always your fault. It's sometimes stereotypical, like, you know, like how the community and how everybody view it. Like, yo, some communities with cops, just like how he was saying earlier, some communities with cops is like, yo, enemies. Well, at the end of the day, y'all supposed to be here for some other communities with y'all as like superheroes. Like, yo, like y'all here right away.
At the end of the day, I want myself and my partner to go home. I'm at a point where my partner has more to lose than I do. So when it comes down to it, in reality, if push came to shove, I'd rather he go home than I go home.
But then when I started having officers as family and friends as family, and I got these little PBA cards and these badges, right? Now they put me over in my mind. I still feel a little like I'm thinking, but I'm kind of like,
but that's relationship.
I got this tool in the back of my hand, so if they act crazy, I'm like, my brother's a sergeant, my brother's a captain. You gotta chill.
I gotta get a jail-free card.
Yeah, I got a jail-free. I gotta get out of jail-free card. Like, boom. You know?
You guys being peace officers, then so much of. Now I don't want to say enforcing the law, because obviously you have to enforce the law, but coming down on the community. Because the way that we feel like it's like sometimes
we're already in a bad space, and then y'all ticketing us.
Not your call, you know, it comes from the higher ups, but it gotta be less of, well, we gotta fill this quota, and more so we gotta create this peace in the community, and that's how we're gonna see a difference in the policing.
Group number 1, group number 3, group number 2, group number 4. Oh boy.
They going in.
Okay, somebody from group number 1. You.
The white hair campaign because he won't allow
Come
these.
on.
He
Yo.
will be brown.
Because you know what? They didn't understand the different roles that we had to
A lot
take.
of times.
The 103rd Precinct engages in community outreach through various events. Build the block meetings, quarterly meetings conducted by NCOs to discuss sector concerns, giving the community opportunities to connect with police officers who work within their neighborhood, and the Precinct's Community Council, a group of volunteers who are committed to the betterment of their community and serve as a conduit of information between the police and the community residents, clergy, community leaders, business owners, stakeholders, raising awareness and ensuring the needs of the community are reported and addressed. The Precinct's Community Council meets monthly, and the meeting is open to all community members to voice their complaints, concerns, ideas, etc. Yet, it's the same people who attend both of these meetings. At the last meeting, the following solutions were proposed to address the issues of distrust and disconnect.
These are real, legit scenarios that either police officers that we have as a department that we face, what we experience as police officers, and these are also things that the community has expressed to us that they feel are their concerns, right? That list which you just read was just actually a summary of things that were brought out at the first round table that we had. My point in bringing that scenario up is that we do events, right? And we have the community council meeting, and we have the NCO Build the Block meetings, right? And it's advertised on social media, they put flyers out and everything. But yet, the turnout to these things, so the community says, we want to have more events, we want to have meetings, we want to interact. But when it's time for the community to come out, when we're doing this, they don't show up. It's the same people. So what you actually had to do was to figure out how we can do that and make sure that the communities actually show up.
Right. So that's why I feel, that's why one of the important things was we have to address a need in the community. So it can't just be meeting up to meet up. Like what is the issue in the community? If it is, for instance, like we need better parks or something, the community and the cops work together on that, and we're doing a grand opening of a park somewhere. Now the communities, they get impacted by that, and it's not so much pressure just to come to a meeting per se. I haven't.
I know. So we have somebody, so there's somebody here who can actually attest to that, Larry, who's one, because he's from our interaction and from Rob and from other people in the community. They actually formed the community, their community, right, in Sector Charlie, formed their own group called Bridging the Gap. Okay. That is now a not-for-profit from what we started, and they continue to do other things, and now they become the liaison between the police and community. And we've tried to take that to duplicate within other areas of the community. But when it's time for the community to come out, that's difficult.
Police and the people, it's not cool to be, you know, at these events yet. So it's a matter of just keep doing it, keep getting as many other organizations outside of the police involved as possible to keep bringing people in so that people can feel like, okay, it is cool to interact with the police. It is cool to be at these things because you guys don't have the coolness yet because of the damage, just realistically.
That are established with other NYPD officers that are in certain units within the NYPD, those individuals can affect the relationship you took years to build. That Rob, all of the NCOs, that they taking their time in the communities, they take their time in the communities and build these relationships, and you have other officers that are not community affairs oriented that are coming to the community, and they'll destroy that same relationship in a matter of minutes.
Okay. Wait, because we're on a time straight, and I need each group to kind of like tell what their issues were. Not that I'm cutting you off, but I do have a response. Go ahead. Somebody tell me what this group's.
Man, you do. Oh, wait, where's that paper? There was a pen. Oh, and this is your pen. I'm sorry.
All right. Okay. So, I mean, this is a lot to read, so I'll try to get through this. Yeah, I'll summarize it. So, matter of fact, I don't even need this. Let me tell y'all what's going on, all right? So, yeah, so here's the deal. we had to do a role reversal, right? In terms of the relationship between police officers and civilians. So civilians got a chance to be in the role of the police officers, so we could see what it's like on their side, and they could see what it's like, on the way we live day to day. The first thing that they said was that when they put on the uniform, right? If you put on the uniform to go to work for Rite Aid, you just go work at Rite Aid, whatever. But if you put on a uniform for a police officer, it's like you're a target. We don't like you. We don't rock with you. So it just makes everything harder. What I said was, I understand where that comes from, because look at what goes on every day. You know what I'm saying? We understand where that comes from. So we have a start, stop, continue thing. One of the things that I think that should start is communication, accountability, and promoting that. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. When I was speaking to Officer Alexander, right? She said, when I started talking to her, this is how dope this whole experience is, and I just thank everybody for being here. But when I started talking to her, she was like, we don't talk to you. Like, who you? So in my mind, I had to get out of the civilian mindset and really be like a cop, because out the gate I'm like, why you talking to me like that? It's like, I ain't do nothing to you. Like, you understand what I'm saying? And then, but you gotta always hold that standard. And then I was telling my gentleman here, who's like a fellow officer with me in that situation, because we, changed the roles. He was like, well, why you talking to her anyway? Forget them. And I'm like, you're an officer, we supposed to be in this together. So sometimes another officer could be against you. So now it's crazy. And then he jumped in to get on my side to figure out how we can make things better. So to sum everything up with this situation and the solution that I believe that has to start, the officers together have to communicate with one another to have a game plan to tackle the situation or the damage that has been done with that name, because their name is tainted. That uniform is tainted. That's one. The communication. If the police ain't on the same page to make things better for everyone overall, you failed. That's it. It's over. That's one. Two, accountability, meaning that when I had a disagreement with this person, he stepped in and took my side because he understands what this badge and gun's supposed to represent. We work for them. They don't work for us. We work for them. We work for the civilians. So accountability came into play. So now the way his role was, he's like, oh, okay. Now he can't just do what he wants because nobody can say nothing. That whole blue stripe code that we all talk about in the hood, we had to get rid of that, stop that. So communication and accountability. And the other thing was promote. So when Khadijah was talking about, Khadijah was talking about on social media and everything like that, here's the problem. Spark said it. It ain't cool to be down with cops. It's just not. It's not cool right now. It's going to take a lot more to undo that damage. So when I talk about promoting stuff like that, like, you have to do things and continue to show it to make them be like, wait, hold up. Like, all right, this is kind of cool. You have to allow them to come. Think about like a baby. You can't give a baby steak. They're not going to be able to digest it. So right now, there's a lot of babies out there, and we can't force feed the law to them or be their friend. It's not going to work like that right now. What we have to do is communication, accountability amongst others, and continue to promote things like this. This right here is incredible. I'm going to do my best to continue to push it and promote it and get more people involved, but that's the start. The stop is the prejudgment. Earlier when you was talking about the bias and the values, from a police officer standpoint, if you black, white, you can't walk up to somebody and just think they wrong. Just because that's how you feel or you was raised a certain way. Nah, the moment you have that uniform, it comes with something.
The situation was that the community members have expressed that the policing should be more community oriented, such as like the 70s and the 80s, where you had officers on every other corner and you knew them and things of that nature, right? But due to a high influx of calls on a daily basis, the 103rd Precinct, they receive over 450 calls a day. That's just 911 calls. Now, we're not even calculating the approximate number of 311 calls, which is 62 calls a day, right? And that's just 311, which is non-emergency. So what we came up with here was to influx the auxiliary police. It's one of those tongue twisting words. They had me over here for a minute. So we want to influx the auxiliary police force so that they can be able to assist in community patrolling and get familiar with the community at the same time by assisting the officers that are there. So one of the tricky thing was they said that we can't deal with the numbers of the police jobs. So we can't deal with the jobs, whatever they got.
In crime rates, whether it's shootings, whether it's larceny of autos or robberies, and those several bills passed and plans, which is one was decrease the amount of cops wearing regular clothes, that they have to be fully uniformed, and also a bill passed that makes kneeling or basically just putting your pressure on top of somebody when they're trying to make an arrest, not illegal, I guess. So, but now the problem was that cops now don't know how to say if a person is resistant or anything, they don't know how to correctly address or correctly detain a person, which was our situation. How cops will arrest us without using all the force and putting on top of us. So one thing that we thought should start is more training on takedown tactics, that basically the cops need to find a better way to detain civilians that are suspected of doing crime.
Government has to stop treating the police department and the community like a business, a charity service, or a church, and have to continue to operate consistently across the board. So Domino's had a promotion where if you ordered pizza, you would receive it in 10 minutes and less, and it led to car accidents, cars running through red light, and death, and those behaviors were incentivized the wrong way. So immediately those corporations ended that program and started to reassess what changes they needed to make to improve the safety of the community. So we're saying that there needs to be mutual community shared investment where cops feel concerned about their benefits, their pensions, and being arrested, and they're working in poor communities who don't have benefits, who doesn't have shared investments, and who have nothing to lose, and who have been incarcerated and who have negative experiences with the police, that it needs to be stocks in the community so the community members feel they have something to lose as well, like the upper elite communities where they don't have police present, but they have resources. So we need to stop using the cops' role to be teachers, fathers, and doctors and allow them to serve their position, and then to continue to provide the community with the right resources to thrive as citizens and as peoples and not prisoners. And the vision of NYPD and community affairs. So it's the 103rd Precinct's goal that we become one community, and that's why you all are here. You got scenarios based upon our experiences, what we're going through in the 103. And we wanted you all to understand that. We wanted you all to understand what the challenges are for us, right, as police officers, right, along with we hear what you're saying we hear you as a community. And the only way for us to come up and to solve this issue is if we work together. And as HipHopGamer says, right, I'm going to use it, through love. Because he always says that everything got to lead through love. But through love. So we hope that, this conversation continues. Anybody who completed the stop, that sheet, the stop, start, and continue, we like to collect those, right? Because we want to know what was said, because there's a lot of people interested in what's going on in the community. And I would like to call my commanding officer up. What did y'all think about tonight? So next time y'all gonna bring other people, right? Okay.
So look, everybody's been here long enough. I'm only gonna speak a couple of minutes. I want to thank everybody for coming here tonight. I think it was very productive. And what I saw was this isn't about putting our differences aside. It's about learning about our differences and, values and how we think and how we go home and speak to, others about a stop and interaction with the officers. I've been on the job for 15 years, a little bit over. I'll be 16 in January. And with that, I can say this is the most challenging time that I've had in my career. It's very stressful. I go to sleep at night and I rarely get a good night's sleep, concerned about this community. I'm concerned about waking up to an incident that, you know, puts us on the cover of the paper. I'm concerned about the well-being of my officers and everybody that lives and works here. And I've dedicated the last 5 years to the NCO program. And I was in the 101st Precinct at the ground level when it first came up and off the ground. And what I'll say to that is, you know, you see Officer Gilhulia, Officer Gannon. These were guys we groomed. We put in place to be the liaison with the community. I think these guys and Nadia and some of these other officers represent that to a T. This is exactly what we wanted. Unfortunately, you know, we speak about erosion and units that caused the problem. We had, you know, this was caused by an incident that happened 1,200 miles away that had nothing to do with the NYPD, but kind of brought some things to the forefront. Unfortunately, it eroded some of the good that we have done over the last 5 years. You know, I spent times when I was in Far Rockaway, in one of the worst developments down there, building with the New York Mets a playground for an indigent housing development. You know, and I had people out there thanking us. I mean, family members, kids, and to this day, they're out there playing on it. You know, so I could go to bed at night, and as coming on as a police officer, I could say, look, that was one of my goals. All right, I came in to a community, and I hopefully made it a better place than when I left, before I got there. And I left it a better place. So, look, that's what we strive for. I think that's what we all get on here for. 99.9% of the officers come on this job to do good. And unfortunately, I say it to a lot of members when I speak, you always have people in your family that are maybe not the most upstanding. You know, maybe you don't get along with them, because I know I have. I have members in my family that if I could probably remove them, I would. But you got to be tolerant. You know, look, we you know, and that means if we do have to remove them, we will. And we talk about accountability. We need to get better at that. I agree. And rooting out that 0.01%. And I attest. I doing this for my adult career. I could tell you that 99% of these officers are good people, and they're no different than any else. And you saw that today with our values. You know, it was reflected upon in how we thought. We all kind of had core values, whether it be, you know, the child crying, the homeless, being in a car with you know, with two children. You see the core values, all right, and they're all the same. So what I'll end with is we talk about respect. And before I got to the 101st Precinct, I was the commanding officer there, I was in the gang unit. And we were tasked with going after some of the, however you want to classify it, bad is worst, most violent people in communities. Communities like, you know, right here in Jamaica, South Jamaica, Far Rockaway. And I assure you, there is a criminal element out there that is very bad. And for whatever reason, they got wrapped up in it. And some of it, they're too far gone. You know, it doesn't matter what program we get them in. They just can't function in society, at least not at this time where they are in their life. And then that may be, you may have to be incarcerated. So, but when I went out, I always ended, 99% of the time, I ended my car stop, I ended my interaction with a thank you. And I'm telling you, people thanked me because why? I treated them with respect, all right? I never came down to the level, but there's people that have next to nothing in this world. And if it's, you know, maybe, you know, a one-room apartment, if that, and when you strip them of that and you take the respect away, that sets us back 10 nights of what we did tonight. All right, so that's what I preach to my officers. That's what, you know, we strive as the NYPD, you know, to get that, we mentioned professionalism. Professionalism, treat people with respect. And I assure you, and I've had this happen, when I stop another person on the street and the person I stopped the night before, he's out there, he's like, no, he's good, he's all right. He's not gonna give you a hard time, he's just doing his job. And that's what we need. And we need you guys to go bring this back. bring this back to the members of the community that are not here tonight. And you get that message across. And we're going to grow together, whether we like it or not, as a community here. We are the 101 precinct, as much a part of the community as York, as much a part of the community as South Jamaica houses. So we're gonna have to grow together. All right, and I have faith that we will. I say no more. Have a good night, guys.